Yeah, we're at the fifth line. Tani. V'gunavei, it's the last narrow line. V'gunavei be beis laish, v'lom beis laish. And everybody goes crazy about this. They say, what do you mean? It means that if you steal from a man and not from, you only if you steal from a man, you pay kefil, not if you steal from a woman, can't be, right? Why should you pay kefil if you steal from a woman? So therefore, everybody changes the girsa. They change it. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people change the girsa. Shai Teresel changes it based on the Gemara elsewhere in the Yerushalmi. V'guna beis haish v'lomi beis haganav. If you steal from a ganav, then you don't pay kefil, right? Or similarly, he brings down another drasha, which we don't have in front of us. V'guna beis, which is perhaps more important and will fit into the rest of the line. V'guna beis haish v'lomi beis hashoel. Only if it's stolen from the house of the owner, not from the house of a shoel. Because if you steal from the house of a borrower, then you don't pay the original owner double. Why is that? Because already all the liability is in the hands of the borrower. The borrower has all the liability. So therefore, the ganav does not incur additional liability by stealing. Therefore, he only pays kefil, he only pays single payment, not kefil. Okay? Kol atzmos, so says more. Why not? How can you reject shoel on the basis of the word ish? Kol atzmo ein ksiv. It should be ish. El b'shoel. It said by shoel though. Word ish. It's interesting. Shaiter so explains. It always says that you borrow from a person, except by a shoel it says v'chiyishal ish me'es re'ehu. There, the word ish pertains to the borrower. So how can you use the word ish, to preclude a borrow when it's stolen from the house of somebody who borrowed it from you, if the borrower in the pasuk is called an ish? So that should include the borrower. The Gemara doesn't answer. So again, but the Gemara says, God's going to receive ish el b'shoel. The Tamer Achei going to say the shoel is excluded, but the Maisa, the way Shai Teres explains it, even though the Gemara doesn't answer here, but the answer is based on tzvara. In other words, if you steal from somebody by whom there's from the owner, or from somebody who's a shomer of the owners and as of limited liability, then the ganav has to be kefil. But the shoel, the ganav stole from somebody who has full liability, such as a shoel, only a shoel, then in that case there is the act of geneva has diminished repercussions, and therefore there's diminished payment. You only pay one payment, you don't pay kefil. Okay? Ain't a good about a ganav. Similarly, if somebody steals, this is a quote from a Mishnah actually. Ain't a good about a ganav. If somebody steals from a ganav, ain't a good about a ganav. If you steal from a ganav and then you steal a slaughter or you sell the animal, there's no payment of quadruple or quintuple. The Escorial manuscripts adds in over here in line. It has ganav v'nigdava himenu. You stole the object, and it was stolen from you. You're the ganav, right? And then the gneva was found lying in the street. And somebody wants to be Mekayim Hashavas Aveda. So who does he Mekayim Hashavas Aveda to? L'miu Mishalim, the Escorial manuscript says. So asks, L'rishon, L'sheni, L'shteyim. So who does he give back the Aveda? To the guy from who was stolen? To the thief? Or does he have to give it back to both of them together? It's an interesting question, right? You would assume he gives it back to the original owner, right? But on the other hand, the ganav needs this in order to be Mekayim its mitzvah of Veishav is Agzela.
The second ganav did a shiur before he's calling the object.
No, where's true? He didn't.
For sure.
What? No. I'm telling you about you stole, and was stolen from you, and then it was lost afterwards. Plain, right? So the question would be Mekayim Hashavas Aveda too. It doesn't say. Be that as it may, now we continue on for the similar case, and here we have it again. The second word line: Ganav you stole, v'nigavay menu, and it was stolen from you. The tafsu bailim es hasheni, and the bailim grabbed on to the second ganav. Right? They found the second ganav, and they accused him of having stolen it. V'nishba lohed, and the second ganav took a false oath that he didn't have the stolen object. So, in Tamar Motzim and Hasheni, to whom if you're going to say that you take it, extract it from the second guy, and give it back to the original owner, so then the shvuah taken towards the original owner was the correct shvuah to take, and he lied on the shvuah, and since he lied on the shvuah, and the Asher Torah requires a korban shvuah, right? Then and he give back to the original owner, maybe korban al hashvuah. He brings a korban on the shvuah. You say, if ever you say that, no, the second ganav is a litigant of the first ganav, but not of the original owner. The original owner doesn't leapfrog over the first ganav. The first ganav goes to the second ganav, and the original owner goes to the first ganav. So if that's the case, then the second ganav, even though he lied in the shvuah that he took, he wouldn't bring a korban shvuah. Why? Because you only bring a korban shvuah if the person who made you take the shvuah was entitled to do so. Your shvuah is the proper response to that person, and you lied. Which is an amazing irony. Of course, this whole Gemara is not in the Bible at all. It's an amazing irony, because the original owner should ultimately get his object back. But it could be the ganav in the middle is a buffer between him and the second ganav. And therefore the proper litigation is between thief number one and thief number two, not between original owner and thief number two. It's very strange, but it's not beyond the boundaries of logic. Okay? So, strange I can live with. Says Ganav v'nignav v'imenu. Used again. So the original owner, stolen from him, thief number one. Thief number two stole from thief number one. V'nimlach hasheni lachzir. And now thief number two decides he wants to do tshuva. To whom he wants to give it back. Who does he give it back to? If you say it's going to give to the original, what? You're going to say you're going to give to the original owner. Sometimes the original owner won't tell the ganav, and the ganav number one is still going to go after ganav number two. If he's going to give it back to ganav number one, so then it's ganav number one will say yasher koyach, and he'll keep it himself, right? So what do you do? Kate said, how can the second guy, how can you become a full Baal Tshuva? Kate said, said what you do, he gives the original owner in front of the ganav, so everybody knows that the matter has come to closure. Okay? Halacha base. Ganav al pishnayim. You stole, and two witnesses saw you steal. And these two witnesses saw you also slaughter or sell the animal. Or two other witnesses saw you slaughter or sell the animal. You have to pay quadruple or quintuple. The halacha is for a lamb, you pay quadruple. For a ox, you pay quintuple. Okay. If you stole and sold on Shabbos, which is not also the Raisa, only the Rabbanan, right? You stole and sold that, but it might be also the Raisa, but it's not a Chiyuv Misa. It says Machar, but the Bavli doesn't have that word. You stole and you slaughtered Yom Kippur, which is only an Issur Koros. And the Yerushalmi learns there's no Kilin Rabbinay by the Issur Koros. The Issur Koros does not expunge you from the necessity to pay. You stole for your own father. And then you slaughtered or sold the animal. Then your father died, so you became liable to all payments prior to your father's death. In all these cases, you still got to pay. Now, if you stole and you slaughtered, and the next word of machar is non the bavli, it makes no sense. You have to take it out. You stole, you slaughtered, and then you were makdish the meat. Right? You makdish the steaks. You made them kodesh. Okay, you made them kodesh. You had to pay 4 or 5 times because the hekdesh came after you sold it, after you slaughtered it. So for the stealing and slaughtering, quadruple quintuple. Gana v'tovach, and again the machar makes no sense here. You have to take it out. The probably doesn't have it either. Sold. Gana v'machar, you stole and you sold. You sold and you slaughtered for the purpose of refuah, for the purpose of medicine, not to eat, but for medical purposes. L'klavim, or you slaughtered not to eat, but for the purpose of giving your dogs. Or Ashoich Benim says treifa, or somebody who slaughters and finds the animal was a treifa, so the shechita wasn't a proper shechita. Or Ashoich Chulin Bazar, somebody slaughters chulin in the Beis HaMikdash. So Mashayim Tishlim Arab Chamish in all these cases considered to be sufficient slaughter to pay 4 or 5 times. Rishim says the last 2 cases, if you found it was treif or you shechted chulin in the Azara, so then there's no payment for the shechita, because that's called the shechita shenui, an improper shechita. Okay? Now I want to ask a question, only the question is not here. The Mechamayim is down. The question is really the beginning of the Halacha Dalet, a blot and a half hence. And there it says that, and really it brings down a fragment of our Gemara over there, which should just be erased, and we will do that when we get there this evening. But anyway, the kash is like this. The kash is, if you're toveach, why? If you're toveach on Shabbos, we didn't have that mission, we're going to have it subsequently. If you slaughter on Shabbos, or for Avodah Zarah, you're potter from tashlumin. You are potter from paying. Kinler Rabineh. Right? Oh, come on. When you get killed, you don't have to pay. You get you don't have to pay. Yet here, what happened to the little notebook you used to keep? So you're parted from payment because kakim labor rabineh, you get the more severe punishment. So, but what about here in our Mishnah? Is slaughter on Yom Kippur still liable to pay? Why don't we say here also Kilan Rabineh, because you get chorus, right? So, and the Gemara brings down interesting, and the Gemara really flips it around. And Gemara asks, why are there you're not liable twice? Now, bring your case, you have two punishments. So we have 2 punishments, even if you're gonna have a tavach on Shabbos. What's the case? V'lokem Rabbi Yavo, b'shem Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Sin Rabbi Yochanan, Hazed b'chelev. This goes back decades to Masechta Shabbos. We normally think of shogeg, of course, as being where you did the aver accidentally, right? But was a concept of the Shabbos. Mandamar told that even if you did the aver intentionally, yet we forgot that there's a chi of korban, then you shogeg vis-a-vis the korban, you can bring a korban. Okay? So what happens like this? Hazed b'chelev, where if you've been mazed 8 chelev, 8 forbidden fats. The Shoyal korban, you forgot that there was a korban involved in that. Okay? So then, Masribo, we give him a double whammy. We warn him. For Loika, we flog him. Maybe korban, and he brings a korban as well. So since that's okay, so there we see a double punishment. Malchus and korban. So to here, why don't we say double punishment? When he's shecht on Shabbos, say, Misa, we kill you, and you have to pay nonetheless, right? Says the Gemara, a very cute answer. Got to give the Gemara credit for this one. Rabbi Barachia b'Shem Rabbi Shmuel Yitzchak said, nay. Said no. Kedei Rishoso. It says in Turk, Kedei Rishoso. What's Kedei Rishoso? I mean, that's one of the sources for the Halacha Kin and Rabbanah. You only give the more severe one. So you only give him 1 penalty. But that's only Shnei Dvarim B'Sur L'Beisin, when there are 2 penalties which Beistin imposes. HaToifes Echad Me'em. Then you only impose 1 of the 2. So when there's Misas Beistin and Malchus to impose, or Misas Beistin and money to impose, and so on and so forth, you only impose 1 of the 2. However, Yotza Dova Shemasa Shemayim, that precludes where the penalty is at the hands of heaven. So in our Mishnah, who's going to smite you down for being Toveach on Yom Kippur? Not Beistin, God, right? So therefore there's no Kilan Rabineh. Because the God imposes his penalty, and we impose our penalty. Everybody lives happily ever after, or dies shortly thereafter. As opposed to the case of later on, where it's 2 penalties in the hands of man, there you don't impose both. Okay? Only Misa and not Mammon. Okay? Now the Gemara gets really interesting. Ganav al Pishnayim. You stole, now the next Gemara, I cannot stress how fascinating it is enough, because the next blot is all of this is not the Bavli at all. Not the Bavli. Ganav al Pishnayim. What? Ganav al Pishnayim. Not the Mishnah, of course. Mishnah is there. Ganav al Pishnayim. You slaughtered on basis of 2 witnesses. Reuven and Shimon testified that Yankel stole. Okay? The time Machapi, and the same 2 witnesses, Reuven and Shimon, testified that he either slaughtered or sold it. they're found to be Eidim Zoimim. B'Shayim law is called. They pay all 4 or 5 payments, right? To the Ganav, right? To the person who really didn't steal, but they trumped up the charges of based on him. Ganav Abishnayim, Reuben Shimon testified that he stole. V'Tam Abishnayim Achem, and Levi and Yehuda testified that he stole or slaughtered. So, Eilu Ve'elu Nimtzu Zoimim, if both of them are found to be Zoimim, Hagishoinim, Reuven and Shimon, who testified about the Gneva, they pay Mishayim Tashlum Kefil. They pay the initial payment of double, but for the Gneva itself. V'achroinim, Levi and Yehuda testified as to the Tficha or the Mechira, Mishayim, they pay Tashlum Shloisha. They pay triple, meaning the remainder 5 minus 2 is 3. Which is what you pay for the tvicha, because that's what they testify. What if, on the other hand, you slave and Yehuda are found to be Eidim Zayimim? In that case, he, the Ganav, still stole. We didn't. Reuven Shimon's testimony still stands, so he still has to pay kefil. For Hain, the second set of witnesses, Levi Yehuda, Mishamim, Tashlum Shloisha, they pay 3 times. What if only one of the last group of witnesses is found to be Eid Zomim? And we know that then in that case there's no payment made, because they both have to be found to be Eid Zomim in order to make payment. But one of them was found to be Eid Zomim, Batla Eidu Shnia. The second testimony is cancelled. All we know is about the theft. We don't know anything about Tficha Mechira, because they only have one aid on the Tficha Mechira. But if one of the first set of Reuven and Shimon is found to be Eid Zomim, Batla Kol Eidus, and the entire thing collapses. Shim ein Gneva ein Tficha ve'en Mechira. Need to have the proper documentation of the Gneva in order to go on to Tficha and Mechira afterwards. Otherwise, the whole house of cards falls, and there's no liability whatsoever. Okay? Ready, guys? Rabbi Zira. Rabbi Zira said, Hadoa Meros. This, by the way, is a brisa. This is also discussion elsewhere in the Yerushalmi and Makkos. Lehman thinks that this is the primary place, and he's probably right, even though Sameach says primary place in Makkos, but it seems this is the primary discussion. Amr teaches us, Eid Zoimim ein nifsal bebeistin, and Eid Zoimim is not found to be possible in Beistin, elameatmo nifsal. He's possible on his own. Now, so much ink has been spilled trying to figure out what that line means. Backwards, forwards, changing the girsa, not changing the girsa. So, let me give you some background material here. Rabbi says machlokas between the Bavli, very famous machlokas. Eid Zoimim l'mafrei nifsal mikanu l'haba nifsal. And Eid Zoimim, when does it become possible? Does it become possible from the time that he testified in court, which is mikanu l'haba. It's going to have possible from the time that the episode took place. Sorry. Does it become possible from the time that he testified? Does it become possible from the time that the Eidim Zomim came? Right, that it became and said Eidim Zomim. So let's say he testified on Rosh Chodesh B'Cheshvan, and the Eidim came to testify against him that he was a plotting witness on Rosh Chodesh Kislev. So if you hold Eid Zomim Mafreya and if so when did it become possible? When did it become possible? It was retroactive. From the original testimony on Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan. But if you hold Eid Zomim Mikanu L'haba Nifsal, so when does it become possible? When the Mezimim come, which is on Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Now, there's a tremendous machlokes hachonim here. What does the Yerushalmi hold? Does Yerushalmi hold Eid Zomim Mafrei or Mikanu L'haba? I'm going to throw in my lot with the Aruch HaShulchan, in his Perush Nemei Chamayim, who says Yerushalmi holds Eid Zomim Mikanu L'haba Nifsal. He's really should be puzzled only from Rosh Chodesh Kislev, from the time that the witnesses come and say these puzzle, not retroactively. Okay. However, Rabbi Zira says the thing is like this: and Eid Zomim, when he's puzzled not retroactively, but any testimony he testified with the testimony which was found to be incorrect is rendered invalid as well. As long as the testimony was in one, what we call in Hebrew, Haggadah, one testimony. Okay, so that's he's saying. Beis Din doesn't pass him retroactively, but that which he said on his own in the same statement, that is possible. Okay, now how does that work out? Pasar lo basroya. He says it's talking about hasroya. Hasroya normally means warning, and many of the Farshim translate it like that. But Lieberman, and he brings it, it's not his idea, it was a Noam Yerushalmi who says this, says that here hasroya means in one unit. Hasroya achas, and Lieberman brings rayas from several places in Yerushalmi. Hasroya doesn't necessarily mean warning, it also means one unit. Okay? So when it's in one unit, then everything he said in that unit is possible. But otherwise, it only becomes possible from here on in. Now, the Yerushalmi brings a raya. V'tanike, I have a brayso like this. Rabbi Yisrael said, Ba'amed Dvarim Murim. When is this true? Now, this is a brayso. Bnei Moshe brings it down, further down in the wide lines. He says that it's about two people testify. If two people testify that he stole, and two others testified that he slaughtered or sold, so then those who are found to be zoymimim, and two of the found ones who testify in the slaughter are found to be zoymimim, he pays double and they pay triple. And then on that, Rabbi Yossi says what it says in our Mishnah. Ba'amed for in this price, I'm sorry, at the top here. Ba'amed for when is that true b'shtei duyos? If it's two testimonies, b'shtei atzloyos. And it's still done on two instances. But if the same group, Reuben and Shimon, came, and they said that the Ganav stole and slaughtered, and it was by Sloya Achas, it was in one unit, even if they're only found to be Eidim Zoymimim on the Tvicha Mechira, which is, of course, the second event, they have less called Eidah Shabbat Lamitzasa Bat Lakula.
What's the difference between Eidos and Hasroya?
What?
What's the difference between
Eidos is the group. One group in one testimony. Because the beginning of the Brisa, which is not in front of us, but it's in the Pnei Moshe, talks about two groups and two testimonies. So he's saying one group in one testimony. Okay, so Eidos, it's actually like the Yiddish, in the yeshivas they use, instead of saying Eidim, they say Eidos. Remember that? So it's actually the same idea here. Eidos Achas means one group of witnesses. Okay? So in any event, now the Gemara says, by the way, I'm quite proud of myself because I'm going to learn this entire plot without changing a single word, which is pretty neat because you should see what the Gilad Ephraim does. He basically rips the Gemara up into small pieces and glues them back together again. It's in different ways. So I didn't do that. I'm quite proud of myself. But I do have to change a little bit of the literal meaning here in order to do that. So it says Mara, Mao Shabbat Lamitzasa Batla Kula. Now normally this is a query, an explanation, but here it's actually an attack. It says, what do you want to say? It's Eidah Shabbat Lamitzasa Batla Kula? That's the only reason why it becomes puzzle? Otherwise, the Eid Zoymim does become puzzle retroactively, only from the date that the Mezimim come. What about the following case? They come basically on the 10th day of Nisan. And they testify, they testify that the guy stole an ox on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first day. And that he slaughtered or stole it, or sold it, Basar b'Nisan on the 10th day of Nisan. Okay? Who's more, they found to be Eidim Zoymim, B'chamisha Asar b'Nisan. Now that happens in the first day Pesach, so Kash on my time, so we're just pulling the dates out of the hat, right? There's no base on the 15th day of Nisan, but we're just pulling dates out of the hat, right? Kol Eidus, so the Gemara wants to contend, he's puzzled on the testimony concerning both the Gneva and the Tvicha Mechira. But is it not because of Eid Zoymim Lemafreya Unifsal? Is not because of Kol Eidu Sheidu Me'asar B'Nisan Ad Chamisha Asar B'Nisan Lemafreya Reilim Psulos? It's not because of Basachas. It's because every testimony from the 10th day of Nisan to the 15th day of Nisan is possible. Now, truth is, the year of the Gemara is a little bit makatzer. and in Makkas it's a little bit longer. That even they testified on the Gemara here proposes, even they testified about the Gemara Makkas, I think proposes. Even they testified the 10th day of Nisan about the Gneva, and the 11th day of Nisan about the Tefillah Mechira, and on the 15th day of Nisan that they were found to be Edom Zoymimim. So that stretches back to the 10th, and possible testimony of the 11th too. That's more contends. Says more no. No, not true. It doesn't work that way. It's only if they testify testimony on the Gneva and on the Tefillah Mechira was simultaneous, not simultaneous, but in one testimony. V'leish mas mi'an klum, and you can't say anything else about it. In other words, you can't. Usually, leish mas mi'an klum means you can't derive anything. But it wasn't a Bryson, but that was a hypothetical case. What you mean is your hypothetical case is meaningless. V'tanike, and here comes the coup de grace. The Gemara says, and I have a Bryson which proves my point. And it's interesting, Bryson. Not brought down none of this. I said none of this is Bavli. None of it. Hena yuli shoinim, behena yu achroim. The case is like this. Shift gears totally. Ba basra. How many years do you establish chazaka? This is where Pnei Moshe brings it down. How many years? 3 years. One group of witnesses testifies on we'll try 3 years. Found to be Edom Zoymim. Obviously, so all 3 years falls off. What if you have 3 groups? One on the first year, one on the second year, one on the third year. So if one falls off, the other 2 don't fall off. Right? Each one is separate. What if but this is the thing. What if what happens if the first group testifies, if the one group testifies, but at 3 separate times? About the 3 separate years. That's what I'm saying about Tani Hena Yerushalmi Hena Yachronim. This is the Brisa. The same group of witnesses came on each year and testified. Who's the Yerushalmi? So the Brisa says, if they're found to be Edom Zoymim about year 1, Ein Bekach Klum, meaning that none of their testimony is valid. If year 1 is undermined, so is year 2 and so is year 3. Bishnia, if they're found to be Edom Zoymim about the second year, Harei Elu Edus Echad. So one testimony still is extant. Which one? First one, not the next 2. Shlishis, they're found to be Edom Zoymim about the third year, Harei Elu Shtei Edus. 2 testimonies are still extant. Which 2? First 2. So it says, well, what are we talking about? Im b'mi'idim olav b'krach achas, b'krach echad. If they testified in one testimony about all 3 years, again, the same funny language. You can't derive this halacha. If they testified about all 3 years at once, you can't say, well, they only found to be zoyme on part of it and not on the other part. Because everybody holds Eidush Shbal Miksasa Bad Mechula. In that case, for sure, we'd have to take them all 3 off. So what must it be? Lo Asyado Elaide Edu Sagyo. It only works where you have many testimonies, right? Many testimonies which work out. Right? You have separate testimonies on each issue, right? So if you have separate testimonies on each issue, so then even if they fall off on one, you can accept it on the others, right? So that's so. Wait a second. Wait a minute. But now I'm feeling my carefully built house of cards is falling apart. 1 second. So the separate testimonies. So what? My problem is that now, I thought I understood it this morning, but now I have a problem. Because l'choira, so it was happened through 3 separate testimonies. But why, if they became puzzle on the first one, do not accept the subsequent 2 if we don't hold Eid Zom Mafreu, and if so? But Eid Zom is not possible retroactively, so why do the other 2 testimonies fall? Here it says that they do fall, but the premise which the Aruch HaShulchan lays down is that we don't say Eid Zom Mafreu, and if so. So why do the subsequent testimonies after the first one fall in this case? What? Why did it depend on the first one?
Because then, if the first Vedas is not valid, and we don't have a chazaka for that year.
Why?
Why? The first Vedas is not valid. All we have is years 2 and 3. Then we don't have.
But why, if you have year 3, do years 1 and 2 count?
Why, if you don't, why, if year 3?
The other way around.
Well, you don't have chazaka, you have valid.
So each year is being taken independently. I don't know if that's what it means here. I mean, you're right what you're saying, but I just don't understand how it works out with the. Well, we certainly know. Let's see what we do know. We do know here that we don't say that this is working. We're proving that apostles. It would be testifying all together, so then we couldn't say this. It's got to be that see the Pnei Moshe himself says here. That's what, I don't know how to deal with this. Look at the top Pnei Moshe. Pnei Moshe says Tani came to be Kanu Lahaba who Nifsal. That it's not retroactive, right? What do you mean it's not retroactive? If it's not retroactive, so why don't we accept? And the Pnei Moshe himself has to explain. Forget about the Meich HaMayim. Pnei Moshe himself has to explain, based on this, how we know it's Mikano Lahaba. L'chora we see, even L'chora here, apostles even L'mafreya. Why is there proof here that doesn't possible Mafreya? I got it. It's Balbatish, but maybe it'll work. We'll see how you like it. It doesn't matter what order they testified. It doesn't say whether they testified in the first year first, on the second year second, and on the third year third. The Brisa doesn't differentiate that way. The Brisa says as long as they testified on 3 different occasions, so then, even if they're found to be Zomimim, on one of those, it depends which one it was. And this goes back to what you two said before. If they're found to be Zomimim on the first year, then the other 2 years fall. Not because, the other 2 years fall because they are, if you don't have first year, there's nothing to build a chazaka on, right? If they're found Zomimim on the second year, the first year stands, but then the next year's fall. If we found something in the third year, then the first 2 years stand. The third year falls. And the Brisa doesn't distinguish in what order they testified. So even if they were let's say they testified in the third year first, and then the second year, and then the first year, in reverse order for some reason, nevertheless, even if they're found to be Eidim Zomim on the third year, the first 2 years still stand. Because it makes no difference the order. And because Eid Zomim Yukano Lahabo Nifsal, that's why it makes no difference the order. And the only time it's going to be a problem if it's in Babas Achas.
Then I go back to your question. The point is that we're accepting their testimony. Their testimony on each year is really separate.
Right.
So even if the first year is possible, we still have valid testimony on the second and third year, which is not contingent on the first year. And the fundamental thrust is that every datus is really separate.
Yeah, that's true. Other idea, which may or may not work. Probably won't work, but let's try it anyway. Like this, that if it says, let's look about back to the Bryce a minute. Hey, are you Yerushalmi? Hey, are you Achronim? They're the first and they're the last, meaning they testify on all of them. They're Muslim on the first year. Ein bekach. Maybe we can tighten this up. I can't do it after the Sefta. Be sure to aim the kachklum. No, it wouldn't be. It's a Tosefta Basra though. Won't do any good. We need a Masechta. They need a Masechta Bava Basra.
Yeah.
You saw Bava Basra there? I didn't see a Bava Basra. No. I can't go on. Let me get one. see if we get any inspiration. That's probably not, but let's try one time. Tani came. We went to Bryce that it's all Mikano Lahaba, as we're saying all along, that the only thing that really Basin doesn't parcel them. They only parcel themselves when they testified to in one unit on the same thing. For example, they testified on 3 years of Chazaka, testified 1 year on 2nd and 3rd year. Who's over a shoyna ein bekachlu? If they're testified on the Tosefta itself says ein biyodoklu. If they're testified in the 1st year and they're found to be muzomim, so then that undermines them for all 3 years. They testified in the 2nd year, there it says that he has 1 year under his belt. She's found to be muzomim on the 3rd year, there it says he has 2 years under his belt. If we're testifying upon it in one unit together, right? Then it can't be that you separate all 3. How can you separate them out, right? You have to be mivato all the testimony. The only way it works is by multiple edus. But you know what? Now I have to check. It works. What the truth is, what the Yerushalmi is doing, it's not trying to prove so that was my mistake. My mistake was that wasn't what we began with. All we began with Rabbi Zira's statement. Eid Zomin a nifsal but based in element atzmo nifsal. And Eid Zom is only parceled, it's not parceled by based in, he's parceled on his own. Meaning what? What does that mean? All that means is that whatever testimony he said, and whatever was associated with that testimony, which is found to be parcel, Basin says on that you're an Eid Zomim and you're parcel. But Basin does not extrapolate from there to assume that this witness is an aid, quote unquote, aid puzzle, and that therefore all of his testimony should be null and void. That's all we're saying. So
the thrust of it is right before the law asks you. That's the key.
Right. The Eridami is then you have to parcel it. It must be Edu Savia. Must be because it's several Eduyos that were machshirim. Now, if Basin was coming along and Basin was branding the guy in Eid Zoymem, or Eid Puzzle, I should say, Basin is being Eid Zoymem, so you should say this guy has no credibility. What credibility does he have? On this subject, at least, whether it's retroactive or proactive, whatever active it is, they have to deny him credibility, right? Because Basin puzzles him, then Basin say he is an apostle. He's chashuv. He's suspect to lie in this case, at the very least, if not more, right? But they don't say that. And that's why even though he becomes apostle on the 3rd year, they don't say, well, you're an apostle now, we can't trust you in this testimony, we accept your testimony in the other 2 things. That's all we're trying to prove. We're not the issue of whether when he becomes apostle, does he become apostle retroactively or not apostle retroactively? That's not our discussion. It happens to be perhaps that it seems from our study that he's not apostle retroactively, but that's a side thing. What we're trying to say, to focus on, is whether Basin apostles him or he apostles himself. And from here you see clearly, from the fact that Basin is willing to look at it simply, he says, we don't care about the fact that all the testimonies concern an issue in which you were found to be an Eid Zoymim. Doesn't concern us. We'll only pass you for the thing which you actually were found to be an Eid Zoymim concerning, and any Eid said at the same time as that testimony. For the fact that we're going to put on those blinders and look only at that incident, not at any other incident, that indicates to us that Eid Zoyme may Atzmo Nifsal, whatever he himself said at that point of testimony on which is found to be Muzam is puzzle, not on anything else. Okay? Maybe? Yeah. So that might be what we're trying to prove here. Okay. Now, so that was proof for our Mishnah also. Because we said in our Mishnah, if they're found to be Muzamim, that was how Rabbi Zira to start it, because it says if the same group of witnesses, right, was found to be Zoymim only on, it's the same group, where was that? What is that? Explicit in our Mishnah like that? Was there a case explicit in our Mishnah like this? I'm not sure there's a case explicit in our Mishnah like that. It should be the Ganav Abishnai Tov Maracha Pihem Nimsu Zomim V'Shamin Lo Sakol. Yeah, the Pnei Moshe means that. Because our Mishnah said, look at first Pnei Moshe, the first Pnei Moshe back in the Mishnah said that's only when they're Muzam on the Tvicha first. No, that's not what I'm looking at. But somehow what we're assuming is if the same group was Muzam on the Gneva, and Muzam was not Muzam on the Gneva, it was only Muzam on the Tvicha Mechira. It would be a case, if they're found to be Zoymim only on the Tvicha Mechira, we'd accept still that their testimony on the Gneva. So the Ghana would pay Kefel, and they would pay Arba the three payments. So I don't see it explicit in our Mishnah, but that's the case of Rabbi Zira Smith is talking about. If you have the same group of witnesses to testify Neva and on Tvicha Mechira, and they're found to be Zoymim on the Tvicha Mechira, and they would not testify, didn't testify that Bevas Achas with the Gneva. So we say that they'll pay the Tashlum Arba Chamisha, while the Ghana pays the Kefil. So that proves that Eid Zoymim Me'atzmun if some Basin doesn't pass it, right? Basin doesn't say, well, you're an Eid Choshet now. So in which case we'd undermine their testimony on the Gneva as well. No, that stands. And on that the Ghana pays Kefil, right? And their testimony on the Tvicha Mechir stands, and on that they pay the three payments. That's what really was going on. Now, the Gemara along these lines says, actually now along these lines, the Gemara now starts a new thing, an amazing thing. Ad Kedum Kshebo Edek Neve Ve'edek Tvicha Kachas. Our whole Mishnah stands where the Edek Neve and Edek Tvicha came as one. Came together. And first he had Edek Neva, and then Edek Tvicha. Except one, and then the other. So then they're both not being Muzamim. The Edek Neva paid 2, and the Edek Tvicha Mechira paid 3, right? Bo Edek Neva Lokim, what the Edek Neva Kamma, we didn't accept them for some reason. Why didn't we accept them? Let's say the Pnei Moshe says because they didn't provide enough data. They provided partial data. Then they said that we saw it except we don't know whose ox it was that was stolen. Then the Edek Tvicha Mechira came and said, we saw a slaughter. And we know whose ox was slaughtered, even though we didn't see the Gneva. So now the Edek Gneva are sustained by the Edek Tvicha Mechira. Right? Okay? So it's a cool case. So we say now the Edek Tvicha, you should know the Edek Gneva already came. The Loki Bloom, we didn't accept it because they didn't have all the data. But because you provided the missing data, we're going to accept the Eidei Gneva as well. Nimsu Eidei Gneva Tvichos Zodaimim. If the Eidei Tvicha turn out to be Zodaimim, Mishalmim Eidei Gneva, they have to pay the full 5 payments. 4 or 5 payments. Because the Eidei Gneva were only sustained by the Eidei Tvicha. So even though the Eidei Tvicha didn't actually testify about the Gneva, but since they were the sustaining corroboration, which allowed us to accept the Eidei Gneva, they bear the ultimate full responsibility, and they pay all 4 or 5 payments. Eidei Gneva come. We don't accept them because they're missing data. Eidei Tvicha come, we didn't see the Gneva, but what the data which Eidei Gneva were missing, the Eidei Tvicha provide. For example, who the person from whom was stolen was. So now we say the Eidei Tvicha, you should know. We only accept the Eidei Gneva based on your corroboration providing the missing data. Therefore, if we find that the Eidei Gneva, are Zoymimim, and you're Zoymimim too, it's not they'll pay 2 and you'll pay 3. You'll pay all 5. Because ultimately, all of the Eidos came based on your corroboration. And vice versa. Now, Rabbi Chizkiah lo amarke. Rabbi Chizkiah didn't accept it this far. He said, Ad kedun sheboim Eidei Gneva ve'Eidei Tvicha kachas. He said it differently. He said, again, our Mishnah, we're divided up, the Eidei Gneva pay 2, Eidei Tvicha pay 3, that's when they came together. Bo Eidei Tvicha v'lo kiblu osam. If the Eidei Tvicha came and they didn't accept that, v'achakach bo Eidei Gneva, and then the Eidei Gneva came, and Amar Lehen, because why don't we accept the Eidei Tvicha? Why don't we accept him? Because Tvicha without Gneva is nothing. That's why somebody had a barbecue, right? Or that's why it's a barbecue. The Eidei Gneva, the ones who say that Tvicha was a barbecue be'isr. So who makes it also here? The Eidei Gneva, right? Who came subsequently. So Bo Eidei Gneva Amalem, we said to Eidei Gneva, heavy yoidim. You should know, Shekvar Bo Eidei Tvicha. The low kiblum, kibalnum, we didn't accept them. Vaidechem onamakabim, so through you will accept them. V'nim tzoyim, in that case, if the Eidei Gneva zoyim, b'shai the Eidei Tvicha, they pay for the Eidei Tvicha. Now, Rabbi Chizkiah did not accept the chiddush of who was the first opinion? There was no name in there. What? There was no name, was there? Just said Ad Kedun. Rabbi Chizkiah didn't accept the Ad Kedun. Because Ad Kedun holds that even Eidei Gneva have to be totally on Eidei Tvicha Mechira. And that, Rabbi Chizkiah, is not true. Eidei Gneva stand on their own, right? Because they're testifying to a crime. It's true they're missing data, but they testify to a crime. So they're always standing, at least semi-independently, and therefore they'll always pay the initial kefel. And the question is whether they'll pay for the Eidei Tvicha Mechira will pay their portion as not, or not. However, the other thing is true. Eidei Tvicha Mechira on their own, if they come first, are meaningless. That is certainly true. That he concedes. And therefore, if the Eidei Gneva come afterwards, and that's what makes the Tvicha Mechira into an act of crime, so then the Eidei Gneva, who made that Tvicha Mechira into an act of crime, they pay 4 or 5. They pay the entire 4 or 5. Why, when it's not like that? Why, when the Eidei Tvicha Mechira come after the Eidei Gneva, do they split it up? That the Eidei Gneva pay 2, and the Eidei Tvicha Mechira pay the next 2 or 3? Because in that case, by the time the Eidei Tvicha Mechira come, they know they're testifying to a crime. Because they're coming after the Eidei Gneva came. So that's why they accept by themselves responsibility. When the Eidei Tvicha Mechira came first to testify to a barbecue, and then the Eidei Gneva came afterwards and made that barbecue a crime, then the brunt of the entire issue falls on the Eidei Gneva, and they're found to be muzomim. The Eidei Gneva pay even for the Eidei Tvicha's portion.
So it seems like for Chizkiah, different from the Mishnah, says in case the Mishnah is simply a matter of circumstance, who came first, who came second.
Right, exactly. But and there's major ramification on halacha. Right, it's weird, and it's not a Bavli, of course. This is a tremendous chiddush of the Yerushalmi. I'm not sure what the ramifications are, but I'm sure the ramifications. Okay, let's go weiter. Halacha Dal. Ganav Abishnayim v'Tavach Umar Abishpiyei Echad. If there was Geneva, there was two witnesses, but Tvim Mechir, there's only one witness. While Piatzmor, he confesses on his own. So the Rishayt Hashem Kefer, there's double. The Rishayt Hashem Archavisha, but there's no additional payments. Ganav v'Tavach Umachar b'Shabbos. If you did the Geneva and you did the Tvicha, not the Mechira, that's a typo, on Shabbos. So you Chayav Misa, right? Ganav and Tavach, it should be again, Mechira is a typo, Avodah Zarah. Then, Kila Rabbaneh, there's no payments. Also, Gana Mishal, on the Tvicha Mechira. Also, Gana Mishal Aviv, you stole from your father. Mace Aviv, then your father died, so you're the heir, right? And then you're Tovecham Boicher, so then you're not really Chayav, because you were barbecuing your own animal, basically. Also, Gana Bikdish, if you were Goynev, and then you were Makdish the animal. Tavach, you got serious problems with shechting a korban, perhaps, but you don't have the problems of tvicha mechira of the owner's animal. So Mishayim Tashum Mekeva and Mishayim Tashum Aruch Hamisha. Rabbi Shimon says it depends. Kachim Shuchai B'Chayiv, kachim which the owner, which you're Chai B'Chayiv, so where you're liable for replacement. Then Mishayim Tashum Aruch Hamisha, you still have to pay Tashum Aruch Hamisha because they're still considered to be. By the way, Ganav is not the Ganav was Makdishit. You can't be Makdishit, obviously. This is the owner was Makdish. So it depends also what he's Makdish. If it's Kachim, which is Makdish, he's still Chayv and Achrayas, M'shayim Tashlum Arba Chamisha. He's got to pay 4 or 5 because it's Kachim to which the owner still had a Shaychus because he had to replace it. And if the original owner is not liable for them, then there's no payment to Arba Chamisha. Says the Gemara, skipping the first 3 lines because we already had them back at the beginning in Halacha base. Matz Nisa, who's the author of our Mishnah, who says that once it's Hekdesh, your pots are gonna be Hekdesh, Chatavachumachar, there's no chiyuv of Arba Chamisha. Why not? So he says, it's Rabbi Shimon. Once you make a kachim and you have no connection to it anymore, so it's not yours. Once a kachim to which there is no connection, the mechira is not a valid mechira, and that's why you're off the hook for our chamisha. Rabbi Yisrael Masun Shah, he asks a question like this, not relevant directly to our sugya, but I'll come back to our sugya. If I redeem a basket of fruit from the treasure of the base of Mikdash, Maushiti Tobel of Maisros, is it Tevel vis-a-vis Meiser? Now the halacha is that when you buy fruit, then you have to Meiser it. If you take fruit out of your field, don't have to Meiser until it reaches your house. But if you buy fruit, you have to Meiser it the moment you buy it. Hektish fruit is potter for Meiser. When you redeem it, it's chayav and meiser. But it's chayav and meiser immediately, as if it's bought, or it's pidyon now like hektish. It's only chayav and meiser when it hits your house. Meiser reish shlokish, so shlokish responded. But at the end, we learned ganav hikdish chakos tavach umachar. It said ganav hikdish chakos tavach umachar. You're exempt. K'madat amar tamana makdish. Now, I made a mistake in the Mishnah. I made a bad mistake. I'm very sorry. Ganav Ikdish is not that the original owner was Makdish. It's after Yerush, and the Ganav was Makdish. The Ganav was Makdish. Our Mishnah is going to opinion that after Yerush, the Ganav can be Makdish. After he was Makdish, he sold it. So, and in that case, it says your potter. It says your potter from your potter from Tashlumi Arba Chamisha, right? So it says your potter. Rabbi Shimon says it depends on kind of kachim we made it. And again, it's the Ganav who made it hekdesh, not the original owner. The Ganav made it hekdesh. If the Ganav made it hekdesh, that he's chayiv and achrayis, so then he still retains some affinity to it. So if he sells it afterwards, he's chayiv tashlumei arba chamisha. Or if he's tovech it afterwards, he's chayiv tashlumei chamisha. If it's kachim to which he has no achrayis anymore, he has no affinity to it anymore, and he's tovech it, so he's not chayiv arba chamisha. So Shlokish says, look, our Mishnah says, Gana v'hikdish v'achakach tavach umachar. Right? That's the case in our Mishnah. you're going to be makdish and you're tovech u'moicher. So, what do you mean? Afterwards, you're tovech u'moicher. What about the hektish itself? Why aren't you liable for being, why is the God of not liable for being makdish? Isn't hektish a form of mecher? You're selling it to the Beis HaMikdash. So it must be, hektish is not a sale, right? If hektish is not a sale, then redeeming hektish is not a purchase either. So then it would be chayav and maisus when you redeem it from hektish, right? Kabasah k'mar atamar tamon ha'makdish enu k'moicher kabasah ha'poida so to redeems enu kech it's not as if he bought it. Milsa the Reish Lakish Amra. However, from Reish Lakish you do learn. I didn't see anybody switch this, but you have to switch it. That pidyon is like mechira. The pidyon is like a sale. The shiur is if it's like buying it on your part, but it is like a sale. The whole sugi and sukkah is pidyon a redemption process? Is it a sale process? So you see, pidyon is like a sale. The shiur is whether it looks like a sale. The shiur is whether it has the halachic ramifications of having purchased something. No, but it still is like a sale in the way it takes place. Okay? And it says, Amar Royal Liptoso Ochlo. I don't know what that means, but I saw in the Escorial manuscript that there are dots on top of each one of these letters. And those dots obviously mean delete it. Whoever wrote the manuscript held that these words are a mistake, so we will hold it's a mistake. Alright, we want to stop, we want to go to the Mishnah. Amar let's say. Ro also, now here also the Escorial manuscript helps. It says in the manuscript, Ro also nitman. They saw a guy hiding in the forest and slaughtering a short shocher black ox, a yard in the forest. So there's a machlokes brings out some machlokas among the Rishonim when it says in the Bavli whether the guy was hiding himself or the guy was hiding the gneva. Here we see the guy's hiding himself. We see a guy hiding himself in the forest and shechting. We assume by definition if he's being furtive about it that he's a ganav. So the Eidim who see him shech, they can also serve as witnesses that he was a ganav because they see him being furtive about it, right? Says, that's how they identify who the owner is. So we saw the black ox, and this guy was acting furtive about it. So they assume that he's a ganav and he's toveach u'moicher. And how do you know whose ox it was? They don't know it was stolen. By saying it was black, so we know, it was stolen from Yaakov, who had a stolen ox, which is black. Says more, wait, how do you know he stole? Maybe he saw a crouching ox in the forest, right? And he decided, I want to slaughter it. But he didn't actually steal it as being furtive because he had a guilty conscience. But who said he's the one who stole it? Depart the Kshru Moshe. It's where they saw him pulling it into the forest. And then furtively he was slaughtering it, so that's indication he's a ganav. Yesh b'tovech b'ashem b'mocha v'yesh mocha shem b'tovech. There are differences between tovech and mocha, which is obvious, but we're just going to get into that. Shatovech b'Shabbos chayv, if you slaughter on Shabbos, you chayv miso, but parted from pain. V'amoicha b'Shabbos, if you sell it on Shabbos, you're parted from death, but you're chayv to pay. I'm Rabbi Yanav Yishov, Rabbi Yanav Yishov, so 1 second. I have a case with you're chayav death for making a sale on Shabbos. And we had this elsewhere, I forget where, somewhere else in Yerushalmi we had this. What's the case? You say to your friend, pull this carrot from the ground and make the kinyan thereby. On Shabbos, of course, right? And this plisha is a type of kinyan. Yerushalmi has several places. Plisha is a kinyan. This is our lo kinyono. As it must be a word missing here. It should be lo kinyono v'chayev misa, saying that he, by the kinyan, by pulling from the ground, he's chayev misa. So you see, there is a kinyan Shabbos that should be chayev misa. Rabbi Bun says, true, but it's not the sale which is being chayev and misa. Plisha should be chayev is so. It's the plucking from the ground which is chayev misa. Lo mechira, not the sale which is being chayev and misa. Okay. Stop here for this evening.
8 o'clock on the
8 o'clock Monday at Lakewood.